Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Valentine's Day. And trust me, the real story is anything but hearts and flowers. You might think it's just this simple story of love, right? But the real history? Oh, it's this tangled web of martyrs, ancient poetry, and a commercial revolution that just changed everything. So get ready for a surprise. Let's dive right in. So, on one side, you've got the myth we all know, pure romance. But on the other, the reality is all about mystery, poetry, and, yeah, business. This is definitely not the timeless tradition you probably think it is. To really get to the truth, we need to peel back all those layers of modern commercialism. We've got to travel back to a time way before February 14th was about gifts and big romantic gestures. That's right. Before it was about romance, February 14th was actually a pretty solemn religious day. It was a Christian feast day to honor one or maybe more early saints named Valentinus, a total far cry from the celebration of love we know today. So who was this Saint Valentine? Well, that's where the story takes a really mysterious turn. The historical record is, to put it mildly, a bit of a tangled mess. Okay, so here's the thing. There wasn't just one Saint Valentine. Historical records point to a few different early Christian martyrs who all had the same name. You've got Valentine of Rome, a priest martyred around 269 AD, and then there's Valentine of Terni, a bishop who was martyred just a few years later. And to make things even more confusing, there's a third Valentine mentioned in early records, martyred somewhere in Africa. It's so muddled that a lot of people think the stories of the first two might actually be about the same guy. So over hundreds of years, this whole tapestry of legends was woven around the saint, or saints. And each story adds a little bit of romance to the pretty grim reality of martyrdom. You've probably heard the famous one about him secretly marrying soldiers who were forbidden to wed. And another story claims he healed his jailer's daughter and right before his execution wrote her a little farewell note signed, you guessed it, your Valentine. In fact, get this, the official history is so murky that back in 1969, the Catholic Church actually removed his feast day from their main calendar. This official revision you're looking at here, it basically says, look, we know his name, we know where he was buried, and we know the date. That's it. All those romantic stories, pure legend added much, much later. Okay, so if the saint's story is anything but romantic, where in the world did the love connection come from? How do we go from this mysterious martyr to a global celebration of love? Let's find out. All right, first things first, let's bust a common myth. You might have heard that Valentine's Day is just a Christian version of the pagan Roman festival of Lupercalia. But historians are super clear on this. There is zero historical evidence linking the two. The romance idea didn't even pop up until more than 700 years after Lupercalia was last celebrated. So the very first recorded link between Valentine's Day and romance, it comes from a pretty unexpected source, a 14th century English poet named Geoffrey Chaucer. In his 1382 poem, Parliament of Fowls, Chaucer wrote this exact line. He connected the saint's day with the time in early spring when birds choose their mates. And this single poetic idea, it was a total game changer. It just caught fire within this aristocratic trend of courtly love. You know, that whole tradition of knights and ladies expressing their love in a noble, chivalrous way. For the very first time, Valentine's Day got a big dose of romance. Okay, now let's see how this one poetic spark just ignited a massive commercial fire. For centuries, Valentine's Day was a pretty minor thing. But that was all about to change, big time. So, a series of key innovations in the 18th and 19th centuries completely transformed how people expressed love. It turned it into a booming business. First, you had books with pre-written verses for people who weren't exactly poets. Then, the postage stamp made mailing cards cheap and easy for everyone. And right after that, entrepreneurs like Esther Howland started mass-producing cards, and companies like Cadbury's gave us the heart-shaped box of chocolates. And boom, the modern Valentine's Day was born. Now, to really get the scale of this change, look at this number, 60,000. In 1835, before the UK made postage cheap, sending a card was actually a rare and expensive thing to do. Only 60,000 were sent that whole year. Okay, now watch this. Just 1 year after the postage stamp was introduced, that number just skyrocketed from 60,000 to 400,000. That's a huge jump. It was a communication revolution. And it basically made sending a Valentine something anybody could do. So today, Valentine's Day has gone global, but it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of celebration. Let's take a quick look at how different cultures have made it their own.
This is a fantastic example of how different cultures have put their own spin on the holiday. Like in Japan, women give men chocolates, and then the men have to return the favor a month later on something called White Day. South Korea takes it even further. They have a loves-themed day on the 14th of every single month. In Brazil, their Lover's Day is in June. And get this, in Finland, it's not about romance at all, it's Friends Day.
But, Valentine's Day isn't universally embraced. In several countries, it's a real source of cultural and religious controversy. It's often seen as a form of Western cultural imperialism, and this has led to actual official bans and warnings against celebrating it, which is a powerful reminder that a holiday that seems so simple can have some really complex cultural implications.
So, what is Valentine's Day, really? Is it a tribute to an ancient murder, a flight of poetic fancy, or just a triumph of commercialism? The truth is, it's all of those things, and a whole lot more. Its real story is kind of a reflection of our own ever-evolving ideas about what love is, which leaves us with a pretty big question. What does Valentine's Day really mean to you?